found the spare key on a Tuesday. Not in the drawer where we kept it. Not on the hook in the mudroom. Not on the little ceramic dish Jenna bought because she said our old one looked like a motel. I found it in a coat that wasn't mine. It was hanging in our hallway closet, tucked behind my work jacket and the puffy coat Jenna wore whenever the weather threatened to ruin her hair. The closet smelled like dryer sheets and last winter's boots. Normal house, normal life. And then my fingers hit cold metal. A keychain, black rubber, new. The kind you get when someone cuts copies at a hardware store and nobody asks why. 2 keys. One was a small brass key, probably for a padlock. The other was unmistakable. Our front door key. Not a key that could maybe fit, our exact key. Same grooves, same shape, same cheap shine. I stood there with the closet door open, waiting for the closet to explain itself. My first thought wasn't betrayal. It was something dumber. Maybe we made a copy and forgot. But I'm the kind of man who knows what's in the junk drawer and what brand of caulk is under the sink. If we'd made a copy, I'd remember the trip, the counter, the little paper sleeve the keys come in. I held it up to the light. It wasn't scratched the way ours were. Ours had been through years of pockets and drops and little fights with the lock when the temperature changed. This one looked fresh, sharp edges, like it had been cut yesterday. Jenna was in the kitchen, humming as she worked. She hummed when she chopped vegetables, hummed when she scrolled her phone, hummed when she was annoyed but didn't want to say it. I closed the closet quietly and walked in, holding the keychain behind my leg like I was 12 and hiding a bad report card. She glanced up. "Hey, you're home early." "Yeah." I watched her face while I talked. It isn't a spy trick, it's marriage. After 11 years, you learn what your person looks like when they're telling the truth, and what they look like when they're making space for a lie. "Did we make a new copy of the front door key?" I asked. Her eyes flicked to my hand. Just a heartbeat. "What? No," she said. "Why?" I brought the keychain out. She didn't laugh. She didn't ask where it came from. She didn't say, "Oh my God, I made one for my sister." None of the innocent reactions. She stared at it, then smiled. Not her real smile. The polite one she used on neighbors she didn't like but still wanted to impress. "That's probably yours," she said. "It's not," I said. "Well," she set the knife down slowly. "Maybe you left it somewhere and someone returned it. Or Ben. Why are you making that face?" "My name is Ben. Benjamin if you're my mom or the IRS. Jenna said Ben, the way you call a dog off a couch. "Where did this come from?" I asked. She folded her arms. "Why is it automatically my fault?" Something inside me cooled. She hadn't asked why it existed. She went straight to defense. Like she'd rehearsed the first 30 seconds of this conversation. "I found it in the closet," I said. "In the closet?" Her eyebrows lifted like that was the strange part. "Yes." "Behind my jacket." She leaned back against the counter, forcing casual. "Maybe you put it there." I let out one ugly laugh. So I copied our key, put it on a new ring, and hid it behind my own coat. Her look said I was being dramatic. "Ben, you're acting like this is a big thing." "This is a key to our house," I said. "It's not nothing." She picked up the knife again and chopped too fast. "Maybe one of the kids found it." Our daughter Mia was 16. Our son Caleb was 9. Neither of them spent their afternoons getting keys cut like tiny burglars. I didn't accuse her. Not yet. I wasn't ready to become the man who points and shouts. I'd seen those men. They end up apologizing for volume and never get answers. "Okay," I said. "If it's not yours and it's not mine, we should figure out whose it is." Her shoulders tightened. "Why are you being so intense?" "I'm being normal," I said. "You're being evasive." That word hit the air between us and hung there. Jenna's purse sat on the chair by the sliding door. Her keyring lay on top. Big loop, little gold tag with our address because she said she always lost them. I walked over. Jenna's eyes tracked me, pretending not to. I picked up her keys. There was a new scratch on the front door key. Bright, fresh, like it had been handled in a way it usually wasn't, like it had been copied recently or compared against something. I set the keys back down. That night, after the kids were asleep and Jenna had showered and put on lotion that smelled like expensive flowers trying too hard, I went outside. The air was cold enough to feel clean. I stood at the front door and ran my fingers along the lock. I'm a building inspector. I'm not a locksmith, but my hands have touched thousands of deadbolts, thousands of cheap but good enough installs people swear will hold. There were marks around the edge of the deadbolt plate. Tiny scratches where metal had tested the gap, not deep gouges, not break and damage. More like someone had tried to see what the lock would tolerate, like they were curious what they could get away with. A tool, not a key. My stomach dropped, then steadied. I checked the windows. I checked the back gate. The backyard was quiet. Next door, a porch light glowed warm and steady, spilling across the lawn like a stage. Kyle Mercer lived there. Kyle was the guy everyone liked. Mid-30s, always smiling, always offering to help. He'd moved in 6 months ago after a divorce, or so he said. He flipped houses, real estate. Building his next chapter, as he liked to phrase it. He shook your hand with both hands like he was sealing a deal and a friendship in one motion. He brought cookies when he moved in. Store-bought, but still, he shoveled Jenna's car out one morning when I was away. He invited us to a barbecue and called it neighbor bonding, like it was a community service. And Jenna laughed more at Kyle's jokes than she did at mine. At the time, I told myself I was tired. I told myself I was being insecure. I told myself I didn't get to be jealous of a guy with a grill and an easy smile. Now I stared at his porch light and felt the copied key heavier in my pocket. Inside, Jenna was in bed scrolling. "Everything okay?" she asked, not looking up. "Yeah," I said. I lay down and stared at the ceiling. If that key wasn't mine and it wasn't hers, whose pocket had it been living in? And how often had that pocket come through my front door? That was the first night I didn't sleep. Not because I was afraid of a burglar. Because I was beginning to suspect the person I needed to protect my home from was already inside it. The next morning I did what I always do when something doesn't add up. I ran the numbers. Not literal math. The quiet kind you do when you're trying to prove you're wrong. The kind where you replay the last 2 months and ask yourself if you were asleep while awake. Jenna's schedule had shifted over the past couple months. Pilates twice a week. Healthy. Normal. I didn't question it because I didn't want to be the husband who questions things. But my brain replayed it with a different filter. She'd started taking calls in the garage. Our garage was full of bikes and a lawnmower that had opinions. She went out there because the door made noise and the kids wouldn't hear. Sometimes she came back and smiling like she'd watched something funny. Sometimes she came back and tight-lipped like she'd argued but didn't want to bring the argument into the house. Once I asked casually, "Everything okay?" "It's just Melissa," she said, like her sister was an entire category of nonsense. Now I wondered if Melissa was a name or a cover, or just a way to stop questions. At work, I tried to focus on inspections. Contractors complained about permits. Homeowners complained about prices. I nodded and wrote notes while my mind kept drifting to our front door, to a copied key, to a lock that had been tested. At lunch, I sat in my truck and stared at my phone, fighting the urge to do something reckless. Drive home, tear through drawers, demand answers, explode in a way that would feel satisfying for 10 minutes and ruin my life for 10 years. Instead, I did the boring, effective thing. I bought cameras. Not a flashy setup. 2 small indoor cams that looked like cheap Wi-Fi routers. Nothing cinematic. Just eyes that don't blink. That evening I installed one inside the hallway closet, angled toward the front door through a narrow gap between coats. I installed another in the living room, tucked behind framed family photos like it belonged there. I hated the feeling of it, of needing proof in a marriage, but uncertainty was worse. Suspicion is poison. It spreads whether you feed it or not. I wanted a cure, even if it hurt. Dinner was spaghetti. Jenna talked about Mia's winter formal like nothing had changed. Mia rolled her eyes. Mom, it's not a wedding. Caleb asked if we could get a bigger TV and said ours was from ancient times. Normal life. Loud and alive. And all the while I watched Jenna's hands. She wore her wedding ring, but she twisted it more now, like it irritated her. Like it reminded her of something she wanted to forget. Later, Jenna sat beside me on the couch. "You've been weird," she said. "I've been tired." She leaned her head against my shoulder. Usually that would soften me. Affection is a simple lever in my brain. Tonight it felt like a tactic. A warm blanket laid over a cold fact. "You're not still hung up on that stupid key thing, are you?" she asked. "I'm not mad," I said. "I'm concerned." She scoffed softly. "Ben, it's a key. It's not like it's a—" She caught herself. A tiny stumble. "A big deal," she finished. I nodded. "Right." She sat up. "You're doing that thing where you act calm, but you're judging me." "I'm not judging you. I'm trying to understand." Her eyes narrowed. "Understand what?" I looked at her. Really looked. Jenna was beautiful in the way familiarity becomes beautiful. Not magazine beautiful. Beautiful like home used to be. Like someone you trust with your worst day. Except lately her smile didn't reach her eyes. "I don't know," I said. "I'm trying to figure that out." She stood. "I'm going to bed." No kiss. No shoulder squeeze. Just gone. The house went quiet. At 2:13 a.m., I woke to the side garage door. Not the big one, the quiet one. I lay still. Footsteps, soft, careful. The sound of someone moving through their own home like it wasn't theirs. A minute later, Jenna slid back into bed. Her breathing slowed like she'd practiced how to sound asleep. Something settled in me. This wasn't imagination. This was choreography. In the morning, Jenna acted normal. Coffee, weather complaint, a kiss on Caleb's head, a reminder about his math test, a text to Mia about bringing a jacket. Then she grabbed her purse. "Pilates," she said. "Have fun," I said. She drove out of the driveway. I watched from the window. Then I saw something I hadn't paid attention to before. She didn't turn toward the main road. She turned into the loop that ran behind the houses, out of sight in seconds. 10 minutes later, I checked the camera feed. The hallway was still. Coats hung like quiet witnesses. At 10:47 a.m., the front door opened. Kyle Mercer walked in. Like he belonged there. No hesitation. No nervous look around. He stepped inside, closed the door, and hung his jacket on the hook like it was routine, like he'd done it before. Like he knew the hook was there because he'd used it. My stomach turned cold. Kyle took 2 steps toward the kitchen. Then Jenna appeared in frame from the direction of the garage hallway, not the front door. So Pilates was a performance. She'd circled back and come in to the side. She touched Kyle's arm, not a friendly tap. A grip that lingered. Kyle smiled. They spoke without sound, faces close, then disappeared down the hall toward the back of the house. Toward our bedroom. I sat in my truck at my work site, watching my life happen in silence. 35 minutes later, they reappeared. Kyle adjusted his collar. Jenna smoothed her hair like she'd been in a rush, like she was resetting herself for the outside world. Near the front door, Kyle handed her a folder. Jenna tucked it into her tote bag. Kyle left, locking the door behind him with that fresh key. Jenna didn't look guilty. She looked efficient. Like this wasn't romance. Like this was a project. That night, Jenna came home smiling like someone who'd gotten good news. She kissed my cheek as if the day had been normal. "Good day?" I asked. "Pretty good," she said. Pilates was brutal. I nodded like I believed her. Catching someone in a lie doesn't make you brave. It makes you careful. You measure words. You choose when to speak and when to stay quiet, because if they realize you know, they change the plan. Right then I needed them comfortable. I needed them sloppy. After dinner, Jenna went upstairs to fold laundry, which meant scrolling and texting in the dark. At 9:12 p.m., she went out to the garage for another Melissa call. I went upstairs and opened the bedroom closet. I didn't rummage. I didn't throw clothes. I wasn't looking for drama. I was looking for facts. Her tote bag hung on a hook. Inside was the folder. Plain white. No logo. I slid it out and opened it. Mortgage broker paperwork. An initial refinance packet. Pre-approval forms, disclosure pages, a checklist. Not final documents, but the early steps that start the machine. Our address was on page 1. My name was on it too. And the signature line looked wrong. Not wildly wrong, close enough to fool a busy person, like someone had practiced. Like someone had copied the rhythm but not the soul. I flipped through more pages. Estimated value. Income figures. A line item that tightened my chest. Cash out amount. They weren't just lowering the rate. They were pulling equity. Our money. Our cushion. Our future. The packet wasn't complete, but it was moving. Dates were recent. Initials appeared in places I didn't remember initialing. Checkboxes were marked. A process was being built around me. I put the folder back exactly as I found it and stepped away, hands cold. Downstairs, Jenna came in from the garage, smiling like nothing. Over the next week, I watched. Not like a man spiraling. Like a man collecting evidence. Kyle entered my house twice more when I was at work. Jenna always found a way to be home. Always through the side door. Always with timing that would look innocent to anyone not paying attention. The folder thickened. New pages. New initials. New dates. I saved screenshots of the footage, timestamps, clear shots of Kyle entering, Jenna meeting him, the folder in her hands. And I started checking the mail like it was a crime scene. On Thursday, a letter came from our bank. I opened it because my name was on it. It said our contact preferences had been updated and future statements would be electronic only. That wasn't my request. I logged into our bank account. The password still worked for now. But the contact email on the profile wasn't mine. And the phone number wasn't mine either. They were trying to cut me out quietly. Not with a dramatic fight. With forms. With little switches that turn off your access without you noticing until it's too late. That night I called my friend Marcus. Marcus and I went to high school together. He became a lawyer because he liked rules and hated bullies. He's the kind of person who reads every line of a contract and gets offended when commas are used irresponsibly. I didn't tell him everything. Not yet. Marcus, I said hypothetically, if someone tried to refinance a house without one spouse knowing, how would that work? He was quiet for half a second. Ben, that's not hypothetical. Just answer. He sighed. At the start, a broker can collect info, run credit, push e-sign disclosures. But to close, both owners usually have to sign with verification. If someone's forging, that's fraud. Felony fraud. And if they're also changing bank contacts, also fraud, he said. Document. Don't confront too early. And call me when you're ready to be real. I hung up and stared at Jenna across the living room. She laughed at something on her phone, light reflecting on her face like she was lit from below. That weekend, Kyle threw another neighborhood barbecue. Jenna insisted we go. Why? I asked, keeping my tone casual. Because it's good to be social, she said. You've been so withdrawn. We walked next door with store-bought potato salad. Kyle greeted us like we were old friends. Ben, my man. He slapped my shoulder. I smelled cologne and charcoal, the scent of a guy who wanted to be liked by everyone at once. Kyle turned to Jenna. Jenna, you look amazing. She blushed. That small, humiliating detail hit harder than it should have. Not the compliment, the reaction, the fact that it mattered to her. Kyle's backyard was full of people. Neighbors with beers, kids running, gossip wearing smiles. Kyle moved through the crowd like a politician. Jenna stayed near him like she belonged there. I stood by the grill, watching. At one point, Kyle leaned close to Jenna, speaking into her ear. She laughed and touched his arm. Then she glanced at me. Not guilt, not love. A quick calculation, like she was checking whether I was watching. Like she was measuring risk. I walked inside Kyle's house, pretending I needed the bathroom. In his hallway, a folder sat on a side table. Tabs visible, neat, professional. I glanced down. A market analysis packet. Suggested listing price, comps, a seller net sheet, and on the top page in bold, my address. My mouth went dry. This wasn't just about pulling equity. They were planning a sale, a move, a fresh start. And I was the obstacle. I didn't touch the papers. I didn't take a photo. I just memorized what I saw and walked back outside with my face arranged into something normal. Kyle raised a beer and clinked it lightly against mine. To good neighbors, he said. I held his gaze. To keeping things respectful. He laughed like it was a joke. But Jenna didn't laugh. For the first time in weeks, she looked afraid. On Monday, my online banking password didn't work. I typed it again, slow and careful. Wrong password. I hit forgot password. The reset code went to that unfamiliar email. They were speeding up. In the kitchen, Jenna poured coffee like a woman with no secrets. Did you change our bank password? I asked. She didn't look up. No. Then why does the reset go to an email that isn't mine? That got her attention. Her eyes snapped up, too sharp. What are you talking about? Her face wasn't confused. It was caught improvising. There's a new email and phone number on the account, I said. I didn't add them. Jenna's jaw tightened. Okay, so call the bank. I will, I said. I'm asking you first. She slammed her mug down just hard enough to make a point. Why do you always assume I'm doing something wrong? I didn't answer. The true answer would have set the house on fire. I'm calling the bank, I said. You're being paranoid, she snapped. Paranoid is when there's no evidence. She blinked, then softened fast. Ben, you've been stressed. You're making connections that aren't there. Gaslighting, served warm like soup. You're scaring me, she added, voice small. There it was, the flip. Make me the danger. I pulled my hand back gently. I'm going to work. At the office, I verified my identity with the bank. The representative confirmed the contact info had been changed 3 days earlier. Did you authorize that? She asked. No. We need to flag this as suspicious activity, she said. Flag it. Plant a bright red flag in the middle of their project. When I got home, Jenna was on the couch, phone in hand, a practiced smile on her face. We need to talk, she said. I stayed standing. Okay. She patted the cushion like she was directing a scene. I think you've been spiraling. Spiraling, I repeated. You're checking locks. You're on your phone all the time. The kids notice. She brought them in early. The kids were leverage. And Kyle, she began. My stomach tightened. Kyle. He's noticed, she said. He asked if everything is okay. He's been supportive. Supportive. That word tasted like metal. I sat down because I understood something. This conversation wasn't for me. It was for the record. If she could frame me as unstable, she could use it later. Divorce, custody, a forced move, a story that made her the reasonable one and me the threat. Jenna, I said calmly, I'm not looking for a fight. I'm looking for clarity. Tears appeared like she'd cued them. I can't live like this. I can't live with you treating me like a criminal. She slept in the guest room that night. The next day, she told Mia I was going through something. Mia watched me at dinner, concern and suspicion mixing in her eyes. "Dad, are you okay?" "I'm okay, kiddo," I said, and hated that I had to say it. 2 days later, Kyle came over while I was home. He knocked like a man with manners. Jenna opened the door with a smile that made my skin crawl. Kyle stepped inside and offered his hand. "Ben," he said warmly, "I heard you've been under stress. Jenna's worried. If you need anything, man, I'm here." I didn't take his hand. "Kyle," I said, calm, "do you have a key to my house?" The air changed. Jenna froze. Kyle's smile held a fraction too long. "What?" He laughed lightly. "No, man." "Why would I?" I pulled the keychain from my pocket. "This was in my closet," I said. Jenna's eyes widened. Kyle's jaw tightened. Kyle recovered fast. "Ben," he said slowly, "I think you should talk to someone." There it was again. Make me the unstable one. Jenna's voice rose. "Ben, this is what I mean. You're accusing people." I looked at her. "So it's not yours?" "No," she said too quickly. I looked back at Kyle. "Then how did it get in my closet?" Kyle lifted his hands like I was dangerous. "Man, I don't know, but this is not okay." He glanced at Jenna, quick, sharp. "A signal." Jenna started crying loud enough that Caleb came running in. "Mom," Caleb whispered, scared. Kyle stepped forward like a hero in a bad movie. "Hey, buddy," he said gently, "your mom's okay." Grief cracked through me. They were using my kid as a prop. I crouched to Caleb's level. "Go to your room, buddy." "Dad's having a grown-up talk." Caleb hesitated, then backed away, eyes wide. I stood. "Kyle, leave my house." "I'm just trying to help," he said, still smiling. "Leave." He stepped back, slow, playing calm. "All right. Jenna, call me if you need anything." He walked out. Jenna's tears stopped like a faucet. She wiped her face and looked at me with something hard behind her eyes. "Congratulations," she said quietly. "You just made it worse." That night I heard the side garage door again. Soft steps, a click, this time from the patio door into the kitchen. I didn't move. I opened the camera feed. A shadow crossed the living room. Someone was inside my house. My kids were asleep upstairs. I called Marcus. He answered groggy. "Ben?" "I'm ready to be real," I said. Marcus met me the next morning at a diner off the highway, the kind with laminated menus and coffee that tastes like it's been working overtime. He slid into the booth, took one look at me, and asked, "What do you have?" I showed him everything, screenshots, timestamps, Kyle entering, Jenna meeting him, the folder. I told him about the pre-approval packet, the bank contact changes, the market analysis packet at Kyle's. I told him about the night noise and the shadow crossing my living room. Marcus listened without interrupting. Benny leaned back. "Okay," he said. "Good news. You're not crazy." I exhaled like I'd been holding my breath for a week. "And the bad news?" I asked. "They're building a narrative," he said. "And if you react wrong, you'll hand them bricks." "So what do I do?" "We do 3 things," Marcus said. "Protect the kids, freeze the financial damage, create a clean record." He spoke like a checklist because Marcus loved checklists. First, no arguments in front of the kids. No confrontations with Kyle. Calm at all costs. Okay. Second, lock down money. We flag the bank, notify any lender in writing, and you put a fraud alert on your credits. Done. Third, locks, he said. You change them, yes. You give Jenna a key because she lives there, but you document that no copies are authorized and that Kyle Mercer is not permitted to enter when you're not present. We send a written no trespass notice to him, too. Clean. "What about the copied key?" I asked. "Evidence," Marcus said. "Keep it." "What about the packet?" "Also evidence. You need copies." That afternoon, while Jenna was at Pilates, I photographed every page of the packet. Front and back. Close-ups of signatures and initials. I didn't take it. I didn't change the order. I put it back like I'd never touched it. Then I called the broker listed on the paperwork and told them there was suspected fraud in my name. They transferred me. They asked questions. They sounded skeptical until I emailed the signature image and said I'd be filing a report if anything proceeded without verified consent. Suddenly, everyone became very careful. I placed a fraud alert with the credit bureaus. Then I went to the hardware store and bought new locks. Not to play sheriff. To stop the bleeding. When I got home, Jenna was in the kitchen, humming again. "Good day?" she asked brightly. "Busy," I said. I set the locks on the counter. Her humming died. "What's that?" "New locks," I said. "We're changing them." Her eyes widened. "Why?" "Because someone has a key to our house who shouldn't." "Ben." "I'm not arguing," I said. "You'll have a key, the kids will have keys, no one else gets one, and Kyle isn't coming in here when I'm not home." Her voice rose. "This is controlling." "It's security," I said. She stared at me like I'd slapped her. Then, unexpectedly, she smiled, slow and cold. "Fine," she said. "Change them." Her smile didn't mean fine. It meant you're forcing my hand. That night, with Marcus guiding me, I sent 2 emails. One to Jenna, locks changed for security, household members only, no third-party keys, disputes to be handled through counsel. One to Kyle. He was not authorized to enter my property or home. Any attempt would be documented as trespass. Future communication to counsel. Boring. Clinical. Calm. Marcus called it paper armor. 2 days later, Jenna served me with divorce papers. Not at home. A process server delivered them at my work, in front of a contractor who pretended not to watch while watching with every cell in his body. I took the papers calmly. "Thank you," I told the server. He looked surprised, like he'd been expecting a show. That night I came home to find Jenna's sister's car in my driveway. Melissa. So Melissa was real. She just hadn't been the voice in the garage. Melissa stood in my kitchen, arms crossed like she was guarding something. "Ben," she said sharply, "we need to talk." "Not tonight," I said, and set my keys down gently. "Jenna's scared," Melissa said. "Jenna's filing paperwork," I said. Melissa scoffed. "She says you've been acting unstable. She says you're spying." "I'm not discussing my marriage with her sister," I said. Melissa leaned in. "Kyle says you threatened him." I almost laughed. "Kyle isn't welcome in my home," I said. "He's just a friend," she snapped. "Then he can be a friend outside," I said. Mia pulled one headphone off at the table, eyes sharp. "Dad?" My voice softened instantly. "Hey, kiddo. You okay?" She nodded, but she was watching everything. Melissa noticed and backed off, but not before she fired one more shot. "Jenna wants you out of the house," she said. "That's not how it works," I said. "It is if she gets the kids," Melissa said. My chest tightened. My face stayed calm. "That's enough," I said. Upstairs in the bedroom, I opened the camera feed. At 10:58 p.m., Kyle walked onto my front porch. He stood there, staring at the door, then reached into his pocket and pulled out a key. He tried it. It didn't work. He tried again. Nothing. He stepped back, annoyed, looked around, then walked to the side gate and tried the patio door. The camera caught it all. He jiggled the handle, pressed his ear to the frame. Then he pulled out a thin metal strip and slid it into the gap, trying to force it. I didn't yell. I didn't run outside. I called the police. Calm voice, clean facts. "There's a man attempting to enter my home. I have video." Kyle must have heard the neighbor's motion light click on because he stopped and walked away, trying to look casual. But the camera got his face. Clear as day. When the officers arrived, I stepped outside with my phone. They watched the footage. One of them looked at me. "You know him?" He's my neighbor, I said, and he's been given written notice not to enter. They walked next door. Kyle came out in a hoodie, acting confused, acting offended. He couldn't explain the strip. He couldn't explain why he tried a key at my door at 11 at night. He said something about checking on Jenna and Ben being unstable. The officer's face stayed blank. "Sir," he said, "you've been warned. This is trespass, and that tool suggests attempted unlawful entry." Kyle went pale. He tried to smile. It didn't land. The officer documented everything and issued a formal trespass warning. If Kyle came back, it wouldn't be a neighborly misunderstanding. It would be a charge. When the police left, relief hit me so hard my knees felt loose. Not triumph, relief. Because now the story wasn't, Ben is paranoid. Now there was a report, a record, a timeline that didn't care about feelings. Paper armor. And it worked. The next month was the longest of my life. Not because of screaming. We didn't do much screaming. Because everything became paperwork. Jenna moved through the house like a stranger, speaking to the kids in a careful voice like she was auditioning for Best Mom under pressure. I spoke to the kids the way I always had. Steady, present, consistent. Consistency is louder than accusations. Mia watched with quiet intelligence. Caleb just wanted pancakes and cartoons, and for adults to stop doing weird adult things. Marcus filed responses. We requested records. The broker confirmed the refinance process had been stopped due to suspected fraud. The bank restored my access and flagged the account. The trespass warning sat quietly in the background like a loaded fact. Jenna's lawyer tried to paint me as controlling and unstable. Marcus answered with exhibits. Time-stamped footage of Kyle entering my home. Photos of the refinance packet with suspicious signatures. Bank records showing context changes. The police report and trespass warning after Kyle's attempted entry with a tool. No opinions. No insults. Just a clean timeline. Jenna's story started to wobble. Stories need trust. Evidence doesn't. We met for mediation in a bland office that smelled like carpet cleaner and anxiety. Jenna sat across from me, looking tired. Kyle wasn't there. After the trespass warning and police report, he wasn't allowed anywhere near the process. But I could feel his influence in the way Jenna spoke. Like she'd been coached, like she was trying to hit specific beats in the right order. Her lawyer started with the classic line, "Jenna wants an amicable resolution." Marcus nodded politely. They suggested I move out of the house for stability. Marcus slid the trespass warning and report across the table. That request isn't reasonable, he said, not given the documented attempted entry by Mrs. Hart's associate. Jenna flinched at associate. Her lawyer pivoted to finances. Jenna keeps the house, I start fresh. Marcus slid the lender correspondence across. We're also not ignoring suspected fraudulent refinancing. The mediator, an older woman with sharp eyes, leaned forward. "Mrs. Hart," she said, "did you authorize refinancing steps and account changes without Mr. Hart's consent?" Jenna's lips parted. For a moment she tried to find the old smile, the old spin. The room didn't allow it. "No," Jenna said quietly. The word landed like a gavel. The mediation shifted after that. We handled custody first. I didn't try to take the kids from her. Jenna wasn't cruel to them. They loved her. But I insisted on structure, a schedule, a parenting plan, no surprise moves, no sudden relocations for support, no new friends having access to the kids. No blur. Jenna tried once. "My mom can help." Marcus interrupted gently. "The children already have stability. Their school, routines, and their father's residence." Jenna's eyes went glossy. She wasn't crying because she missed me. She was crying because she was losing control of the narrative. Then the house. I offered something simple and fair. I would keep it. I would refinance properly in my name only and pay Jenna her share of the equity, calculated cleanly, documented cleanly, no tricks, no punishment, no drama. Just math and signatures done the right way. Her lawyer pushed back. Jenna didn't. She couldn't. Not with the bank flags, not with the broker record, not with the police report, not with a timeline that refused to bend. While the lawyer stepped out, Jenna spoke to me directly for the first time in weeks. "Ben," she said low, "you really did this." "Did what?" I asked. She swallowed. "You made me look like the villain." I blinked. A lot of answers rose in my throat. I swallowed them. "I didn't make you look like anything," I said. "I just stopped pretending." Her eyes filled. "Kyle said you'd freak out. He said you'd make a scene and then I'd have leverage." "Kyle doesn't live in our marriage," I said. "You let him." She flinched. That one sentence went where excuses couldn't. "I didn't mean for it to go this far," she whispered. "That's the thing," I said. "It goes as far as the choices you keep making." We signed a settlement framework. Not a fairy tale. Not a movie ending. Clean. Over the next months, Jenna moved into an apartment across town. The kids adjusted slowly. Mia acted tough but cried once when she thought I couldn't hear. Caleb asked if we could still do pancakes Saturdays. We did. Kyle stopped waving. He stopped hosting parties. The friendly guy glow faded when he couldn't use my front door or my paperwork. Neighborhood gossip said he tried to flip another house and ran into legal complications. People stopped trusting him. Doors stopped opening. Funny how that works. One evening, 6 months after everything broke, I stood on my back patio with coffee. The air smelled like cut grass and cold weather coming. Mia came outside and sat beside me. "Dad," she asked quietly, "were you really spying on Mom?" Her voice wasn't accusing, just careful. I took a breath, chose words like they mattered. "I was trying to find the truth," I said. "I didn't want to believe something bad without proof." Mia nodded. "Mom says you didn't trust her." "I trusted her for a long time," I said. "Then I noticed things that didn't match." When that happens, you don't owe your confusion more loyalty than you owe your safety. Mia stared at the fence line, then said, "Kyle's a creep." I laughed once, soft because teenagers will always find the simplest truth. "Yeah," I said. "He is." She leaned her head on my shoulder. "No performance, no agenda. Just real." "Are you okay now?" she asked. I thought about the spare key, the closet, the folder, the attempt to rewrite me as unstable. How close I came to yelling, to giving them the story they wanted. And how powerful calm can be when you back it with facts. "I'm okay," I said, "not because it didn't hurt. It did. But because I didn't let it turn me into someone I don't respect." Mia nodded like she understood more than I wanted her to at 16. Later that night, after the kids were asleep, I opened the hallway closet. Coats. Laundry smell. Ordinary. I reached behind my jacket and found the original spare key, our old one, taped to the inside wall where Jenna and I had put it years ago, back when we were building a life together instead of dividing one. I left it there. Not because I was afraid, because I was done needing a spare way into my own home. I closed the closet door. The click sounded like peace.